Hello, fellow creatures of the universe. Welcome into my humble abode. This abode is big enough for me, but I would prefer something bigger. There's a dirty joke about that, but I'm not going to bother. Thank you for coming into my place and visiting with me. Appreciate it. The posting I put out a little while ago about my belief in somebody's right to end their own life. I still stand by but I got some reach outs concerned about me, and I got to tell you that's really a touching thing to have. That being said, I stand by my beliefs that it's a personal decision whether to continue to live or not, and I don't think anybody else has any right to interfere with that. Of course, a good friend that's reaching out that is concerned about you. That's a cool thing, and I didn't do that for that reason. I was doing it to try to be upfront and honest about life and whether or not there's life after death. Topics of I posted a video recently about a couple of Star Trek Next Generation episodes known as quality of life, which means what qualifies something as being alive, and then the true Q, the question of I just love the way Gene Roddenberry's mind works. He looks at the universe and the dimensions of the universe, and it would appear to me that he believes, or maybe it just it kind of dawned on him that we can't be the smartest species in a universe so vast and so distant, and things being so far away. It's just when you read the numbers on the distances between us and the rest of planets and the rest of the celestial planets and stars that are in the universe, it's mind-boggling. Like Voyager 1 and 2 are both out of the solar system now. They were launched in the 70s, mid-70s, traveling speeds that are like 15 to 20,000 miles an hour. I think that is definitely faster than a bullet. And picking up speed and momentum, and at these amazingly fast speeds, those two satellites are 40,000 years away from the nearest celestial body from this solar system. I'd say it's impossible to get one's head around those numbers and those distances. I mean, it's just as much of a challenge to think of eternity, infinite life, immortality, and mortality. And I said also just a day ago that I believe that we are not that far from discovering the secret of immortality. And I don't think it's going to be a secret. I think that Elon Musk is on a track that was going to be taken, because with machine learning we can program. There's so much space inside our computers now for programming, that we program artificial intelligence, and in other words, the machine thinks for itself and decides on a course of action, developing or expanding its own neural network. That's fascinating stuff. And with that possibility, of course, James Cameron came out, I think it was like maybe 15 years ago, 12 to 15 years ago, with the movie Avatar, which it was along the same lines there. Okay, you're going to take your consciousness, which I don't know how they would encapsulate a person's consciousness, and transfer it into another object, like a robot or an avatar, to extend the life of that consciousness. Whereas now, we die and our consciousness is gone, and the people, once you're gone, like Neil Young says, out of the blue into the black, you pay for this and they give you that, and once you're gone, you can't come back when you're out of the blue and into the black. And that's the way things are. And they're going to be that way for some time. I just read today, I'm going to be talking about another Star Trek Next Generation episode, but suffice it to say, one of the things that really fascinates me about this episode is that David Warner, a renowned British actor, you would know his face, you would recognize him immediately. He was like the right-hand man of the bad guy in Titanic. The guy that was chasing Leonardo around and trying to kill him for stealing his girlfriend. He was the backup guy for that. He's tall, he's like 6'2", 6'3", and he's British too. You can tell by his accent he's British. And looking at this episode of Star Trek, which is called Chain of Command, he plays a Cardassian Takamata, or a Cardassian torture expert to get information out of enemy agents, captured enemy agents, to get intelligence so that they can be more successful in the war that they want to conduct. Cardassians, and again, looking at Gene Roddenberry and how he's so optimistic about the future, but he knows what sells and what doesn't sell, and what he does is he puts these aggressive, ambitious cultures into space that are warlike, like Cardassians, Romulans, Klingons. They're all warlike. All three of them are warlike. And if you look at them, you can see, that they're designed as gladiators and to fight. But they are, Gene Roddenberry kind of pushes the envelope as far as, these warlike cultures with the influence of the reasonable human being. That's hilarious. And I think it is. When it comes to violence and war, there's nothing reasonable about us. I mean, in the United States, there's some crazy number of guns. It's insane. From my opinion, is that it's insane. But men are crazy about their guns, and it has to do. They're like phallic symbols, and it's an extension of their genitals. And it explodes and it sends out a projectile. I mean, all the suggestive, or all the symbolism of being a phallic symbol is right there with a gun. And my gun's bigger than yours, so I'm going to win. Okay, but David Warner, wow, what an actor! So it's one episode with two parts. Over 2 weeks. When SNG was on, you'd watch it 1 week and then you'd tune it in the following week and watch it. Well, this was a 2-part episode, and you'd watch the first part, and then the next week you'd tune in to see the second part. So they invested a considerable amount of resources into getting this done. David Warner, and I just read today that he passed away this year, 2022, in July, and I think he's 81 years old. Man, that guy's been around. He played Bob Cratchit in the 1982 version of A Christmas Carol, where George C. Scott was Scrooge. And you just can't help but be enamored by the guy in that role. I mean, he's so perfect. He's this tall, skinny guy. He wears the clothes real well. It's just what a director, a motion picture director is looking for. And a super command of the language, as a matter of fact, and this is the reason why I'm talking about him and Star Trek. He was Shakespearean. He had a Shakespearean background in the theater. Well, Patrick Stewart, there's no more of a Shakespearean actor than Patrick Stewart, who's Captain Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek Next Generation. And they are at odds with each other. David Warner is this vicious, sadistic antagonist that is trying to break down Jean-Luc Picard with torture. And by the way, for any women that may be watching this, if you've never seen the perfect male body before, check out this episode of Star Trek, and specifically part 2, the second part, where Jean-Luc Picard / Patrick Stewart is getting tortured. To torture him, they have to take all of his clothes off. And there's one scene, or a shot of a scene, I guess you'd call it a scene, but I mean, obviously they can't show his genitals, but they show his upper body, which is just amazing. You know, all these guys are in great shape too, by the way. LeVar Burton, Michael Dorn, Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spiner. They all have to be in really just a visually nice, slim, muscular kind of body. But Patrick Stewart has got this like upper body. He's upside down pyramid, is what he looks like. His upper body is like, and it's not crazy steroids, you know, like where the muscles are bulging out of his neck. It's a perfect male body, ladies. And if you check out the second part of this episode, the name of it is Chain of Command, you'll see David Warner and Patrick Stewart, you know, squaring off and facing off against each other in a torture chamber, where Patrick Stewart is being tortured and David Warner is administering the torturous pain that he has to endure until he answers the questions the right way. And the questions will totally take you by surprise, because it ends up he just wants him to give him an answer that he knows is false. They both know it's false. And Picard doesn't want to do that, and so he starts to torture Picard until he decides, you know, and it's silly stupid. I mean, he just wants an answer that's different than the truth of something that he sees in the room. You know, like, you know, look at that picture. What do you see? And it's a picture of the sun. And he tortures you, and he says, well, that's a picture of the moon. Now, that's not exactly the way the questioning goes, but he's trying to get him to believe in something that is manufactured in his mind through torture. And to avoid that torture, he has to start seeing different things that aren't there. Fascinating. And I'm thinking, and I'm waiting to talk to my youngest son about this, because he's a little bit of an expert on Shakespeare. I believe he's read all of Shakespeare, which is like crazy. So in this, it's a setting of war, or imminent war, between the Cardassians and the Federation. And the women, Dr. Beverly Crusher goes on a mission to sabotage a secret weapon at the Cardassians, and then Counselor Troy is on the Enterprise with a new captain, and this new captain comes on, and he is, the actor is Ronny Cox, Ronny Cox, Cox, and I knew that I had seen him somewhere. He looks so familiar. Wow, is he a good actor? My gosh, man, they're amazing. And one of the ways you can impress people in acting is not to blink. If you'll notice, like on close-ups, very few really good actors do not blink, and they have to keep their eyes from blinking for extended periods of time. I can last like 5 or 6 seconds, but these guys have to last like 20, 25, 30 seconds without blinking. There's special eye drops for that, I know. But that's common and as well-known technique to the effect that, you know, you're deep, man. You've got your eyes opened and focused on your adversary or your target, or whoever it is you're looking at, and you can't blink because you're so dialed into them. Well, that's for the benefit of the audience, and it works. It works really well. Anyway, Ronny Cox, and he's still alive, played the character of Drew in Deliverance. Now that movie is somewhat infamous, and if you go, when I went to see it, I thought it was just going to be about a canoe trip down an amazing river. Who was a little bit more than that for any of you that know about it. But so Ronny Cox, which is he's another antagonist. So David Warner is an antagonist as a Cardassian. Ronny Cox is an antagonist as a replacement captain on the Enterprise for Jean-Luc Picard. Jean-Luc Picard goes on this sabotage mission, saboteurs, And while he's gone, Ronnie Cox comes in to take over the enterprise, and man, he just starts bossing people around. He tells them exactly what to do, and he wants to get things, whatever he wants to get done, he wants to get done in a quick fashion, and so he rubs a lot of people the wrong way because that's not Picard's style. Picard is, you know, more polite or more not less authoritative, but less abrasive. You know, and Ronnie Cox is this abrasive guy, but he has an exact idea of what he wants to do. He's a wartime commander, I would say. And as you watch it, you start to realize, yeah, he's doing what he has to do to present a strong hand, a bald fist to the Cardassians. Otherwise, they would move forward. And there's many people like that, many cultures like that if you don't show strength, they'll wipe you out. Now, what is a person like me, a pacifist? Basically, I'm a pacifist, what I am. And I wish I was better at fighting. I really do. For whatever reason. I mean, I'm good in sports. I can pretty much run with anybody in my day. And I could run for distance. I could play basketball. If I'm working out, if I'm doing upper body strength, I could, you know, go muscle, mano a mano underneath the boards with somebody that's reasonably not like bigger, not twice as big as me. So what I'm saying is that it's up here, you know, it's up here. And I can't tell you how many stories and how many real stories that I know are real were situations that were solved by the person that was being victimized by another person, a bully maybe, you know, if you want to put it into that context, neutralize the problem by, with, you know, not continued violence, but a violent response. And unfortunately, it seems like Gene Roddenberry thinks that that's going to be part of other alien cultures too. And I guess the odds would say he's right. I would say he's right. And how you keep emotions from interfering with this process is just, to me, fascinating. And this is just another really good two-part episode of Star Trek Next Generation. Season 6 again. I'm not sure what the number of the episode was, but the title is Chain of Command. Well worth the watch. Sorry. I have leukemia, and I take a pill form of chemotherapy. I mean, you see my hand on my forehead a lot, and I can't help it because, and really, people ask me why I've grown this beard. Well, the chemotherapy has reduced the platelets. It's not only compromised my immune system, which is the immunoglobulins. I won't get into that. That's really what fights off viruses. But it also, especially the chemotherapy. I mean, it's too late for me to change my mind about the chemotherapy. I got to keep taking this pill form, which is much better than being injected. I'll say that. But one of the things, the effects that it has, is it reduces the platelets, and that's a common term. Most people know what it means. It's those things in your blood that if you cut yourself and you start bleeding, it will clot. Your blood will clot, and you'll stop bleeding. Hemophiliacs, and they're called bleeders, if you're born a hemophiliac, you could cut your finger and die of a bleeding finger because there's nothing to stop it from bleeding. There's no platelets in your blood. So I started having, with shaving, I started having a problem just recently too. It's weird. I'd nick myself in the past, and there'd be a small little spot, and then it would go away. But now, it's more likely that I'm going to nick myself, and then when that happens, these blood spots show up on my face, and it got to be too frequent, around my chin and around my mouth, and it would look like like I'm bleeding, and I do, but my platelets let's say, your platelets start at 100%. My platelets are reduced down to like 20 to 25% of what they should be. However, all the doctors that I've talked to about this say that it shouldn't be a problem. Platelets get to be a problem. So there's a number of value to platelets. Like I think it goes up to 400 or something like that. 0 being the worst and 400 having the most platelets. My numbers now are hovering right around 100. I think that the preferred range is like from 150 to 300 or 400, something like that. And mine are consistently at 100. Maybe it's 200. I'm supposed to be at 200. But it's like a 20% reduction of the immune system and the platelets. 80%, excuse me. You're left with 20%. So that's the dealio with the beard, and I don't like it. I don't like the beard. I want to get it off. It's scratchy. It's annoying, but I'm leaving it on there, and then I'm going to take it off after Christmas. I had a really good day yesterday. Today's Monday, December 12th, 2022, and yesterday was Sunday, December 11th, 2022, and I go to church. And my original church, the Messiah Lutheran in Downingtown, was wiped out by a flood, and the facility was wiped out. And they're going in a direction of coming back as a church that I do not agree with. They're spending money on refurbishing the inside of the church, and it was flooded. Ivy, or what was the name? It started with an I. Ira? I don't know. It was a year ago, September, a year and a half ago. And it was the worst damage of any building in Downingtown. It was completely, the organ, the $80,000 organ destroyed, all the pews destroyed. The water came up to like 4 or 5 feet, and it just wiped everything out. So there was voting in the church about, what they're going to do, and I think that, not accepting the reality of, after dumping like hundreds of thousands of dollars to rebuild the damaged facility into something that's new and refurbished, and then risking that could all be lost again with another flood easily. There's flooding going on so much, more frequently than in the past. There's a creek, you might have heard, it's a famous creek that goes by here called the Brandywine Creek. George Washington and the British fought a famous battle that's named after that creek. That's the creek that flooded Downingtown. So the choir director left and went to another church, and that's the church I'm starting to go to. I'm not going to completely abandon Messiah Lutheran in Downingtown. I'll get back there like maybe once a month or once every 5 or 6 weeks. But yesterday I was singing with the congregation, and I'm not sure if it's a change in my medication. I think it might have been, but my voice sounded better than it has in a long time. I sing bass. I can't get the high notes, but I can get lower than a lot of people. I can get. See if I can do it now. I can get. It's not my voice was in really good shape yesterday. I'm not sure why, but this is a sound of a bass voice that can go pretty low. That doesn't sound good. Low. But yesterday I sounded really good. I was in the congregation, but I know there were people around that complimented me on the bass notes that I was hitting. And definitely not bragging, and I'm not saying I'm a great vocalist, but I was within a range that sounded really good for me yesterday. And so I'm looking forward to getting back with the choir at the beginning of January. Anyway, I wanted to recommend this episode of Star Trek Next Generation. It's on YouTube. You can buy it for like $4. You can buy both episodes for $2 each and run it on YouTube and broadcast on Chromecast on your big screen television, and it's fabulous, for $4, man. You're seeing acting, you're seeing Shakespearean, top level Shakespearean actors, David Warner and Patrick Stewart, and a top notch American actor in Ronnie Cox. Ronnie Cox in Deliverance was the the member known as Drew. So there was 4 guys in Deliverance that went on a canoe trip, and he was this guy named Drew that ended up doing the famous, dueling banjos. It really wasn't banjos. He was playing a 6-string. Ronnie Cox playing a 6-string, and there was some kind of Appalachian kid playing a banjo, and he and this kid started playing, and it sounds fantastic. Apparently, Ronnie Cox had a somewhat successful music career. So is that cool or what? But take a look at that and tell me what you think. I'd also like to know if you believe that going into space will curb our desire and our need to kill each other and kill other species, or will we go out there with the spirit of peace and acceptance and benevolence? I don't know. I'm not the most confident about us being able to do that. Especially, you look at these guys that are going crazy about the Second Amendment. Take my gun away. Take my gun. No, Second Amendment. Second Amendment. You can't have my gun. We don't want your effing gun. We want to keep the effing guns out of the effing lunatics' hands. But they know that. They know. They want to fight. That's they think about getting up in the morning and when they go to bed at night. Not me. I'm past that, thank goodness. Anyway, peace of mind, and a happy holiday season to all of you.